If you had to discuss your strengths, what would they be?
I would say that I'm extremely hardworking. So, for example, like right now, I work in a greenhouse, which has a lot of manual labor, and I'm also there like 4 or 5 hours getting all my work done. So I have no problems doing a lot of hard work. I'm extremely attentive to detail, so I'm always very careful about all the details on something being right. So those are a couple of my strengths, I would say.
Cool. Um, so, given your work history and experience, how would you define your dream job?
Well, most of my work history has been science related because I'm currently an environmental science major, but I have a lot of interest in policy and law and how it relates to the environment. So my dream job, I want to go to law school at some point. So my dream job is to either do like be an environmental lawyer or to do work on environmental policy at some kind of like think tank or environmental policy organization or something like that. So I think that would be my dream job right now.
Cool. Uh, let's see. Um, is there a type of work environment you prefer slash find most productive?
Hmm. I usually prefer to work like indoors and at a desk. I find I get most of my work done there, so I'm not really looking for a job where I have to go outside and do a lot of work, although I'm certainly willing to do a little bit of that. And I like a work environment that's like I'm where I'm free to work however I want and it's not super regulated, but like I need some sort of rules or like guidelines to what I'm supposed to be doing to be able to function. I can't like go off nothing. So that's generally the type of work environment I like to work in. And also with obviously nice people.
So, how would you describe your management slash mentoring style?
Yeah, so I haven't managed a whole lot of people in my work experience so far. My one experience doing it has been with I was a TA for a class, so I had students there, and then I had a lab research assistant for my thesis research. So I am generally like helpful, and I'm not like trying, I don't want to be super strict when I'm managing people because I don't think that's very productive. But I do feel like you can't have no rules, and so I do tend to try to be like not super strict, but like lay down what I expect out of people, so I'm not constantly disappointed when they don't come up to my expectations. And I like to reach out to them and check on how they're doing multiple times and try to give them support, but also like make sure I don't carry on all the work by myself in managing people because I have found that sometimes that happens and I'll like do all the work by myself and because I don't want to deal with having to reach out or inconvenience someone. But making sure I delegate time responsibly is also important to me. I guess that's a long-winded answer to your question, but
I think it was good. So, next, have you ever had to deal with a difficult situation with an employee or student or person you had to supervise, and how did you work to resolve it?
yeah, so with that lab assistant I mentioned earlier, I did kind of handle or had to go through a difficult situation with her. She I think she had a lot going on in her life, so I don't want to like talk bad about her, but she just like didn't go into the lab when I expected her to, and when I reached out to her and she just like wouldn't respond or like wouldn't carry her weight, and her like work wasn't that much. It was like 5 hours a week, so I knew not to expect too much out of her, but I didn't. But also she was giving me nothing, so I knew I needed to expect more than that. So I tried earnestly for a while, and then I picked up the slack when I knew she wasn't going to do what she was going to do because the work did need to get done. And I know that's not necessarily the best way to handle stuff, but I ended up doing some of the work myself, and then I also went to my advisor and kind of let him know what was going on, and then he just like moved her to a different project, so I didn't have to worry about handling, doing the work by myself because she wasn't doing anything, and then like having to make an effort to get her to do her work as well. So that's kind of how I handled it. If it was a bigger stake situation, I'm sure I would have handled it differently, but that's my only real experience with handling someone who's hard to deal with.
Let's see. How would your boss or supervisor describe you?
Probably hardworking, maybe a little too perfectionistic. That's been my downfall in the past sometimes. But as a result of that, I have great attention to detail, and so there's usually very few mistakes in what I submit. Um, and then I tend to think that they think of me as intelligent and, produces a good quality of work as well, and is nice and easy to work with.
Let's see. If you had to discuss your weaknesses, what would they be?
Yeah, so kind of as I've said before, probably my biggest weakness related to this is having a little too much attention to detail. So like focus on something, and like spend, a lot of my time trying to get it from like 99% good to 100% good, which isn't very like efficient in time management. And so I tend to over focus on stuff to make it perfect sometimes in a way that's not productive. But I'm working on trying to change that, and you know want to realize that sometimes some of my efforts aren't gonna it's not gonna be productive if I spend like 5 hours trying to make something completely perfect. And it might be perfect to someone else if I like submitted something or turned something in or gave something to my boss that was 90% good, and then I could focus my time somewhere else, and that would probably be more productive. So yeah.
Lovely answer. And, uh, was there ever a time you disagreed with the decision that was made at work or some other scenario, and how did you handle it?
I can't think of a specific example for that, but I'm sure I've worked as like a lab assistant in a lab before, and I'm sure I disagreed with something that I was told to do. And like if I feel like I'm in a position to correct someone or like submit my opinion, I will. But like if I feel like that's not my place, then generally I just won't voice up, or will voice something to someone I feel like I can go to, but not necessarily the person that's in charge, or go through some sort of action like that.
What is your 1 year plan?
Yeah, so I'm gonna graduate in May. I'm planning on going to law school, but not, I'm gonna take a year off in between because I have two theses to write in the spring. So I feel like I'm gonna be very burnt out after that, and I'm gonna want a break. So I'm gonna do AmeriCorps or something similar for about a year, and then work in that. I'm not sure exactly what in or where yet. And then I'm planning to go to law school and then try to pursue the dream job that we talked about earlier.
Okay, I guess my wild card question is, if you had to be any animal, what would you be and why?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You can take some time to think about it. There's a
Okay.
lot of animals out there.
Hmm. I would probably be a dog because they always seem so happy and like carefree. At least the dogs that I have at home, they're always so happy to see everyone, and they don't have to deal with any of the human stresses of life. So I think I would want to be a dog.
Cool, a dog. Any specific breed of dog?
Ooh. Hmm. I gotta say I have had a beagle for like 10 years at home, and he's awesome. So probably a beagle. And they like
Oh,
food, so they like food. So I always feel kinship with them on that.
yeah. I love food.
All right. Cool.
9 minutes, 34 seconds. Does that even matter?
What? 9 minutes and 30. Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm gonna turn my